of Ram trucks with Cummins diesel engines have known about the advantages of compression ignition for some time. Jeep Liberty owners will now be able to share those advantages. For 2005, Liberty not only gets a minor body refresh, but will be the only domestic Chrysler Group vehicle to use the 2.8-liter common rail diesel i4 engine. Welcome to this month's Mastertech 2.8-liter KJ diesel and 2005 powertrain update. In this program, we'll start off with a look at components and features of the 2.8-liter common rail diesel engine. We'll then wrap it up by bringing you up to date with additional powertrain changes. ...2005 marks the first time a diesel will be available in a Jeep vehicle for the United States market. Due to emissions regulations, Liberties equipped with a 2.8-liter diesel will be limited to 45 states. Let's start our look at the KJ engine with an overview of its general features. This diesel has a displacement of 2.8 liters and produces 160 horsepower along with 295 foot-pounds of torque. The cylinder head contains 4 valves per cylinder, 2 exhaust and 2 intake. The compression ratio is 17.5 to 1. The 2.8-liter uses a common rail direct fuel injection system, which at times supplies fuel at nearly 24,000 psi. Fuel is delivered through electronically controlled injectors located at each cylinder. Providing the boost is a turbocharger with movable vanes called a variable geometry turbocharger. This allows it to vary output according to engine speed. Taking care of critical engine functions is the engine controller located under the hood. When the need arises on those cold days, an engine-driven viscous heater provides supplemental heat to the passenger compartment. This unit is standard with the diesel engine. Now that we've given you an overview of the 2.8-liter diesel, let's get more in-depth, starting with engine components. At the center of the 2.8-liter diesel engine is the cast iron cylinder block, which incorporates a wet sleeve design. One of the advanced features of this block is that the oil gallery supplies oil to 4 jets to cool the pistons. Due to the design of the cylinder block, you cannot lift the crankshaft straight up from the bottom of the block to remove it. Instead, it comes out the back of the block. This will require an engine stand that holds the engine from the sides instead of bolting to the back of the block. The 2.8-liter pistons are made from cast aluminum and incorporate the traditional diesel combustion chamber design. As mentioned earlier, oil jets in the block provide additional piston cooling through a gallery inside the piston. Below the engine block, the engine contains 2 counter-rotating balance shafts, gear-driven by the crankshaft. These turn at 2 times engine speed to help reduce second-order vibrations. The balance shafts are mounted in an aluminum housing bolted to the bottom of the block below the crankshaft and are serviced as an assembly. A special procedure to time the balance shafts to the crankshaft is required. On top of the block is the cast aluminum cylinder head. As mentioned earlier, this head uses 4 valves per cylinder to facilitate airflow in and out of the engine for increased efficiency. Next up is a unique intake manifold, which combines the cylinder head cover and housing for the intake and exhaust camshafts. The double overhead cam valve train is driven by a belt with a manually adjusted tensioner. The belt also drives the water pump and high-pressure fuel injection pump. Camshafts operate the valves through followers that pivot on hydraulic lash adjusters. The 2.8-liter diesel is a non-freewheeling engine. This means that in the event of a belt failure, internal engine components could be damaged due to the piston coming in contact with open valves. The followers have been designed with a built-in protection and will crack if the belt breaks and the piston contacts an open valve, pushing it back up into the follower. That wraps up engine components. Now let's turn our attention to the fuel system. The heart of the fuel injection and fuel delivery system is the high-pressure pump. Inside, the belt-driven pump assembly includes a low-pressure pump to draw fuel from the tank and a high-pressure pump to deliver fuel to the fuel rail and then to the injectors. Individual fuel injectors provide each cylinder with the correct amount of fuel. Located under hood is the engine controller, which is responsible for control of fuel injection, turbo boost, and glow plug operation. The fuel injection system incorporates a sophisticated feature called multi-pilot injection. Depending on inputs to the engine controller, the fuel system will add 1 or 2 pilot injections prior to the main injection. This reduces diesel combustion noise and helps the engine run smoother. To help heat the combustion chamber before cold starts, each cylinder has a ceramic glow plug that glows only when needed. A lamp in the instrument cluster illuminates to indicate glow plug operation. Take care not to touch the ceramic portion of the glow plug with bare hands. Oil residue from your skin, if left on the ceramic portion of the glow plug, may cause premature failure. The glow plugs operate at 7 volts. Do not apply 12 volts for testing or any other purpose, as damage may result. Part of the fuel system is made up of the fuel delivery components, and the fuel filter is a key part of these. The recommended maintenance interval for the fuel filter is 25,000 miles. When the fuel filter is serviced, or if the vehicle ever runs out of fuel, the primer pump on the side of the filter assembly must be pumped 20 times to bring clean filtered fuel to the high-pressure pump. Priming the pump does more than just provide it with fuel to pressurize. The lubrication for the high-pressure pump is the fuel. Cranking the engine without a fuel supply for extended periods of time may damage the high-pressure pump. After the initial prime, crank the engine for no more than 10 seconds. If the engine does not start, repeat the priming sequence. The fuel filter is installed on the fuel water separator assembly. To drain the water from the assembly, use the bleed valve located on top behind the fuel inlet from the tank, along with the drain valve on the bottom of the filter. Both the bleed valve and drain valve must be used to drain the water. Be sure to prime the fuel filter after draining the water. The bleed valve port can also be used to attach a vacuum gauge to test the low-pressure side of the fuel system. You'll need to use special tool adapter number 9663. This diesel engine is equipped with an EGR air control valve. To cool the hot exhaust gases before the EGR introduces them into the combustion chamber, the 2.8-liter uses an EGR cooler. Next up, we'll take a look at the turbocharger and intake system. One of the easiest ways to add more horsepower to any engine is by turbocharging or supercharging. Most diesel engines adapt well to turbocharging, and the 2.8-liter is no exception. To increase efficiency, the KJ turbocharger has movable vanes that allow it to vary output with engine speed, referred to as a variable geometry turbocharger. At low speeds, the vanes expand to provide additional boost, and at higher speeds, they retract to limit boost. This helps to eliminate turbo lag under launch conditions, along with helping to prevent an overboost condition at high speeds. Because this is a diesel engine, a vacuum reservoir is included to support turbo operation. The reservoir is controlled by a pulse width modulated solenoid. A charge air intercooler is used to cool the inlet air after it has gone through the turbocharger. The charge air intercooler is mounted in front of the radiator for maximum cooling effect. The engine cover on the 2.8-liter is designed to reduce noise and vibration. That ends our look at turbocharger and air intake components. Now let's turn our attention to the accessory drive system. The accessory drive system on the 2.8-liter diesel uses a serpentine belt to operate all of the components. An automatic tensioner keeps the belt at the proper tension. One of the accessory drive components that merits closer attention is the viscous heater. Coolant warmed by the viscous heater provides supplementary passenger compartment heat during cold weather. At first glance, it's easy to mistake the viscous heater for the air conditioning compressor, since they both use a clutch to cycle on and off. Once the engine warms up, the viscous heater may cycle or remain off, depending on inputs from various sensors. As with any new engine, there are new special tools accompanying the introduction of the 2.8-liter diesel. Refer to the service information for complete details. That ends our look at the new 2.8-liter diesel. There are some other powertrain updates you should be aware of. Let's take a look at those. We'll start the miscellaneous powertrain items with a 3.7-liter V6, which now uses a normally open check valve lash adjuster, or NOLA. NOLA lash adjusters have a check valve that responds to the changes in oil pressure that occur with changes in engine RPM. In effect, the check valve causes the lifter to change its length as engine RPM increases or decreases. During low-speed operation, the NOLA check valve, because it's normally open, allows some of the oil to escape before it closes, creating a lost motion link and reducing the amount that the valve opens and length of time it stays open. This reduces the overlap between the intake and exhaust valves, helping the engine to idle more smoothly. As engine RPM increases, the rapid motion of the lifter compressing the oil quickly closes the check valve, and the intake and exhaust valves open fully for peak performance. The cylinder head has been redesigned, increasing the compression ratio to 9.7 to 1. The 3.7-liter now uses plastic cylinder head covers. Now that you're up to date on the V6, let's see what's new with V8 engines. All 4.7-liter engines now use dual knock sensors, which allow more spark advance while preventing potential engine knock. An EGR valve is now used to reduce NOx emissions, while improving fuel economy by replacing some of the incoming fuel-air mixture with inert exhaust gas. The pistons now use reduced tension oil rings to help reduce friction. Look for a 4.7-liter high output to become available in Dakota with a mid-year introduction. That ends our look at engines. Let's talk about what's new in the area of transmissions. In the area of manual transmissions, there are 3 new 6-speeds available for Chrysler Group vehicles. The Getrag G238 6-speed will appear later in the model year in Dakota and Ram truck, and will be available with either the 3.7-liter V6 or the 4.7-liter V8. This transmission will be replacing the NV3500. The Getrag G56 6-speed manual will be used in Ram truck to replace the NV4500 and NV5600. The NSG 370 6-speed manual will be used in Jeep applications to replace new venture gear transmissions. Be sure to see the service information for correct fluid usage requirements. As with any new transmission, there are some special service features you need to know about. And the best way to learn about those features is to enroll in DCA course number 0350208, entitled 6-Speed Rear-Wheel Drive Manual Transmissions. That ends our look at transmissions. On one final note, in case you haven't heard, there is a new power steering hydraulic fluid that the new Jeep Grand Cherokee will be using. That wraps up this program. Be sure to join us next month when we'll cover automotive service best practices. Thanks for watching.